I've worked for years in community clinics and community acupuncture, and one of the clinics where I work is, I think it's the only bilingual clinic in the Triangle. And Monica is my translator, and she's had to deal with me for a long time now. So she's along for the ride if we need anybody. So, or if we need translation, so she can ask to see if we need it. Actually, I don't think we do, Monica. So, since you know most of this because you've worked with me for years, you're welcome to stay or go, or do whatever you like. So,
okay,
we're gonna get started. So this is an acupressure workshop, and while I was, full disclosure, I was writing the Instagram post today, and I kind of started cracking up because I realized I was telling people about how to manage their stress, and I kind of laughed because we're all doing the best we can, okay? So this isn't about being perfect or judging our bodies for whatever they're thinking or feeling or experiencing. It's just about ways that we can better manage the things that we have going on. So I will start. Also, I'm super bad at Zoom. So just a little bit to get you started, if some people may not know anything about acupuncture. And I will say, interrupt me at any point if you have a question, and I will take time for those randomly throughout. So just let me know. But acupuncture originated over 4,000 years ago in China. It's the key component to Chinese medicine. So Chinese medicine is like a big umbrella term for mainly acupuncture, but it's also Chinese herbs, it's Chinese massage, otherwise known as Tui Na. We also use moxibustion, which is like a heat therapy, and cupping, which I don't know, cupping got really popular with Michael Phelps. Is that it? Anyways, so we can definitely talk more about cupping, but acupuncture uses really thin sterile needles, and you insert them into points on the body that are called acupuncture points, or some people for today we're referring to them as acupressure. And these points are specific places on your body, and they're connected by what we call meridians. And so one thing that's important to know about Chinese medicine is that Chinese medicine doesn't view the body and the mind as separate. So they're both systems functioning together. So it's the same thing. So what affects the mind affects the body, and what affects the body affects the mind. So it's different in that way than Western medicine, both of which are good. So we want to start maybe talking about the meridians, just to give you a little bit of an idea. So this is a graph. It's not a great one, but it shows you the lines, the meridians, these invisible lines on the body. And it's where energy is running through the body in these lines. And some are going up and some are going down, and one is going across the body. But the meridians each have these, they're named after the organs. Don't get too hung up on this, because a lot of times when we talk about the liver meridian or the kidney meridian, people get really worried that we're talking about the biomedical function of their kidneys or their liver, and we are not. It's the energetic function of the channel. So I try to tell people, it could be named like, I don't know, notebook channel. It doesn't really matter what we call it. They just happen to be named after the organs. We have a total of 16 meridians on the body, and we can get into that a little bit more if you want, but that's not super important. So the meridians do run on each side of the body. They run bilaterally. So you'll have the lung meridian on one line, on one arm and on the other. So each of the meridians has a set of points, and the number of points varies. So there's one channel, the urinary bladder has 67 points, but the heart channel has 9. So you have certain channels like the urinary bladder that might start at the eye and move all the way through the head and down the back of the neck, down the spine, down the back of the leg, and then come off on the side of the foot. And then whereas the heart channel is just going to start around the armpit and move down the hand. Each point on the body, each point on the meridian has a function. So some have one function, and you as an acupuncturist may never even, I mean, most of the points I've never even needled because there's so many, but some points have multiple functions. So you end up using them a lot. Which are the points that we're going to focus on some of those today because, well, we've all got a lot of problems and we need some solutions. So when we're thinking about the points, they're also named after the organs, but by number. So when you're talking about stomach points, you're going to talk about stomach points 1 through 45. And so sometimes the point function can correlate to the organ, like stomach 36 will improve digestion, which makes sense, but it also brightens the eyes, which doesn't really make much sense unless you've spent a lot of time studying this stuff. So people typically want to know what it helps with, what acupuncture helps with, and it helps with everything because the goal is to balance the body. When our body is out of balance, which we're all out of balance because that's impossible, especially now. When we have this like imbalance in the body, it creates dis-ease. And so that can come up in many different ways. Allergies, IBS, menstrual issues, anxiety, depression, pain, headaches, migraines, rashes, like whatever, like you can name it, it is usually caused by something not functioning and flowing properly. And again, like this is all of us, like nobody is in perfect balance and we're not striving for perfect. We're striving to be able to manage what we have going on in our own bodies the best that we can. And so that's going to look different. It's going to look different for everybody. One thing to keep in mind that really separates Eastern medicine and Western medicine, both are good, is that we don't get the same acupuncture treatment if we have the same issue. So like here I gave the example of 2 people can have a headache, but they're having headaches, could be the same type of headache, like frontal headache or headaches around the temples. It can appear as the same, but the reason is very different. So one person can have it because every time they lose a lot of blood when they have their period, then they get a headache from that lack of blood, from the blood deficiency. Other people might get headaches because they didn't sleep very well or they haven't eaten. And so the root cause of the headache is different, which means we want to treat the headache differently. So there's not just one pill for IBS, I think there is one pill for IBS, but there's not one protocol for IBS or headaches or whatever you're coming in for. So we're looking at the body as the individual. Do y'all have any questions so far? I'm gonna see if I can figure out how to put up my chat. All right. You guys you can throw it in the chat or you can just shout it out. No? Okay. So let's talk about stress. How fun. I'm gonna get y'all. Ooh, somebody needs something?
No, sorry, I didn't realize I was unmuted. My daughter said, "Don't you have questions?" And I'm like, "I will have questions." She knows me well, But no, I just want to say one thing. Thank you for doing this.
Oh yeah, I'm happy
Yeah.
to. You guys are,
So
y'all are my test run here because I'm not usually on this side of the Zoom. So I appreciate y'all working with me and being patient.
anytime.
Thank you, Austin.
Yeah, thank you. So I'm going to ask you guys to participate a little bit just in the chat if you want to, no pressure. But how are some ways that you find that stress manifests in the body? How do you feel that? Tense shoulders? Yes. Stomach. Ooh, we're getting to all this. Headache, tired, tension, headaches. Lots of headaches, digestion, arthritis. Yes. Ooh, yes, a lot of TMJ for people. Poor sleep. Oh, pelvic floor clenching. That's a good one. A lot of people don't notice that. Backache, stomach. Yes. Oh, y'all, we're going to do all this today. Okay, cool. All right. Hand tingling. Ooh, I'm glad somebody said hand tingling. That's a good. There's some things that we don't even recognize. One thing I do want to say that I think is something that happens a lot in Western culture is that we get a little mixed up with normal and common. So there's a lot of talk, and doctors, people in the health industry, medical industry can be guilty of this, that they say something as normal. Like you say, I eat X, Y, and Z and I have gas and bloating, and they say that's normal. That's common. It's not normal. It's common to have period cramps and clots and poor digestion around your cycle. It's common, but it's not normal. And so when we start looking at things a little bit differently in those terms, we realize that we've kind of been living in a lot of discomfort, and we don't actually have to. So it does take a little work, but we have some solutions. So these are just a couple that you guys already mentioned. I always like putting rashes on here because people like a lot of times don't think about that, and they also don't think about menstrual issues so much having to do with stress. I guess maybe a skipped period, but there's way more to our menstrual cycle than just a skipped period. Oh yeah, hair loss. Yep. Oh my gosh, you guys are having some good ones here. So let's talk about digestion first. So in Chinese medicine, it's a holistic approach. So yes, we do the needles. Yes, we do the cupping. Yes, we do the moxa, but it's also about adjusting certain things that are happening. So in your lifestyle, because it's not just one thing that gets us into a problem. Like it's not just chocolate that gives us headaches. It's maybe the time of the month, it's where our hormones are, it's the air pressure, it's the chocolate. You know, we have triggers for things for sure, but there's usually a perfect storm underlying all of this, you know? So let's talk about the digestive issues, because this part is really not fun. And yes, it would be lovely to like just have less stress, but that's almost impossible. And for a lot of people, that task can cause more stress of not having stress. I often tell women when they're coming in a lot for fertility issues that like, if it's easy to get in, come in, but if it's not, like you're going to cause yourself more stress trying to make it to the appointment right before your IVF. And then it's all like, you know, doesn't matter at that point, which is not entirely true. But so with digestion, one thing I'm going to say that maybe you haven't heard before is that it's really important to eat warm foods when you're having digestive issues. It's really important to eat warm foods when you're having any sort of body issue. If your body is healing from a trauma, from an injury, when women are trying to get pregnant. And so we're focusing a lot on the GYN system. We don't want to make the body work harder digesting our food. So it's hot in our bodies. And when we eat our food, we're starting a whole nother cooking process. So when the food gets into our body, it's got to be warm in there. I mean, it's hot and it's cooking the food and it's breaking it all down so that we can absorb the nutrients and then eliminate what we don't need. So one thing that happens when we eat a lot of raw foods, people assume salads are great. And I'm not saying salads aren't great, but if your body is working hard doing something else, don't make it work harder by eating raw foods that it's going to have to put a little extra energy into breaking down. So if we go ahead and eat a soup, say, instead of the raw salad, that's really going to digest quite easily. And so there's going to be times that you just want a salad, and, you know, I love salads. So I would just have a hot cup of tea, hot water with lemon, something like that to kind of counterbalance. Try to avoid really ice cold drinks when you're eating, because you're just cooling it down in there, that like second oven, and the body's just working harder. So try the warm foods. I even know people that cook their salads, which is interesting. Try to slow down and eat. Somebody told me once to eat with your non-dominant hand because it just forces you to slow down. So that's one thing. Also, I have found in the last 11 years of practice that acid reflux and heartburn tends to go away more when people are on a low carb diet versus a low acidic diet, which is very interesting. So I'm not a huge fan of taking food out of people's diet. I would rather incorporate good foods instead of take anything out. So if you are interested in removing foods, just do it gently and like, don't beat yourself up about it if you have that bagel. For folks with constipation, belly rubs in a clockwise motion, always clockwise. We want to get things moving, and this is the way that the intestines are going and digesting. So I think if you have your hand right under your chest and between your chest and your belly button, go to the left, down, then right, and back up. So always keep that going clockwise. If you can do it with castor oil, even better. Castor oil is just very moving, and it just helps move things, break things up. Always apply heat for any belly aches. We love heat. Heat's always a good solution. For those that are constipated, rock pose, which is just sitting on your heels, which I'll demonstrate a little bit later, is pretty effective to help get things moving, especially if you do it right after eating. I know we have some yogis in the group, so they might be familiar with that. This is not my scope of practice. I'm not telling anybody to do this, but I have seen great success with probiotic spores, specifically the spores. Again, not my scope of practice. You just heard it like friend to friend. So for the points, I am going to stop sharing my screen so you can actually see me. Okay, I'm gonna move. I'm in the office. Isn't that nice? Nobody's here. So I'm gonna show you how to locate this point. So stomach 36 is on the leg. It's on the stomach channel. So if you have, if you're able to reach this point, if you run your finger up the lateral side, so the outside of your shin, and it's like if you were to find that little eye right here of your knee. I can send you guys all these points so you can look it up after, but I do wanna show you. If you put your hand right where that little eye, you know the eye I'm talking about right here, this little divot. So if you put your index finger right on that point, the length of your hand, that's where the point is. So one thing that we do with stomach 36, it's like a point that you can see it in any point protocol and you will understand why it's there. It's like the apple. It's like it's always good for you kind of thing. Although watch the raw foods, remember. But one thing that we can do if we don't want to get too specific about the point is actually massage the stomach channel. So we're going down the stomach channel. This is on the outside of the shin. So on the inside, we're going to do something different, but on the outside, we're going to move down. And you can, it can feel pretty intense. While I'm here, I'll show you rock pose and how it correlates. So rock pose is just sitting on your heels like this. If this is uncomfortable, you can put a pillow in between, but it stretches out this meridian. So it helps get the digestion moving. While we're here, so this is great for any digestive issue. And we're thinking down and moving it down because especially if it's constipation, we want to move it down and out. Now, sometimes it's not constipation, it's diarrhea or a lot of gas and bloating. And so stomach channel is on the lateral side of the shin, but the spleen channel, so the spleen channel in Chinese medicine is associated with digestion. This is not the biomedical function of the spleen. So the spleen is more about moving lymph and cleaning our blood cells in Western medicine. So I do know the difference, but for now, if you are coming up on the other side, so you're in the meaty part of your calf and you're coming up the other side, the medial side of your shin, right before you hit your knee, just kind of dig around in this area and you will likely find that it's a little bit sensitive. Yeah, I mean, it's a lot sensitive on me, but yeah, just play around and everybody, we're all out of balance. So our points kind of shift and move and do different things. But when you find the tender point right under your knee, that's the good point for diarrhea. If you get anxious tummy, also, I talk about poop all day, so I definitely had to rein in some of my slides because I thought maybe I should watch it a little bit. So if we have nervous tummy or for people who have morning sickness or motion sickness, you'll see those C bands. And what the C bands are doing, they're pressing on pressure points. So the best way to find that is to take your wrist. So remember, we have the meridians on both sides of the body. So you find the wrist crease and you go right in the middle of it. Take the index finger on your other hand and put your knuckle right in that wrist crease. Boop, when you straighten it up. This point right here. It can be a little achy, but not necessarily on everybody. But this is a great point for when anxiety is causing you digestive upset, or, a lot of times motion sickness is that sense of feeling out of control, anxiety. And so this is a good one. Again, you just have your knuckle, put it in the wrist crease in the middle, and it's right there. Do y'all have any questions yet? I gotta figure out how to do this all again. Chat.
I have a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
So the stuff that you just showed, would you recommend doing on both sides? Or just doing one side? Does it matter if you do both? You get better results if you do both? How does that?
That's a great question. So in the West, we like things to line up and be perfect and equal on each side, but that is totally not necessary. So So like if you just have the ability to do one, work that one. And then maybe if you think about it again later, work the other. You can do both. Like I noticed that massaging my right leg a second ago, it feels actually better than my left. So I kind of want to do both, but it's definitely not necessary.
I have a question too.
Yeah.
Is there a length of time that you should apply pressure and then release, or how does that work? And then I have a follow-up question also.
So typically with acupuncture in adults, when we put the needles in, you only need 15 minutes for it to work. We leave people in a treatment for about 30 because nobody knows how to relax or take a break. So we give them a little extra time. But we also want to be careful, especially with frail people, not to leave them too long. Kids are amazing because they change so quickly. So like the littler you are, the less time you have. So with babies, it's an in and out with the needle. We also have different techniques because, you know, like once they're like Salem, my 7-year-old loves it. Harper wants nothing to do with it, you know, because of the needles. So we have different techniques. But when you're pressing them, you're so focused on that one point because it's not, your whole body isn't covered in doing different things. So it's fine. We would say 5 minutes, you know, just sit with it for 5 minutes, maybe do the other one for 5 minutes, but like 10 at the most for this kind of thing.
And then my second question, sort of related, is if you are trying to locate the point on somebody else, how do you figure out on their body where it is?
Great question. You use their body. So we count in Sun, and Sun is specific to our body. So like if this is 12 Sun from wrist to elbow, that's on me versus what like Eli's going to be, you know, he'll be smaller. So same thing, have them take their index finger and put it in the wrist crease. And sometimes I'll just kind of measure and get a ballpark because you start to kind of feel where the points are after some years. So, but yeah, you use their body. So anything that you use your body for, you use their body. All right, let's see. Moving on from digestion.
I have a quick question.
Oh, yeah.
So can you use it as a preventative? Like if you feeling like you're not sleeping because you're stressed, but during the day you're okay, it's causing insomnia. Can I do it like, I'm going to do this and maybe I can sleep through this stress tonight?
Yes, Megan, you guys are bringing the good questions. Yes, that is, so acupuncture is a great preventative medicine. We don't necessarily think of it that way because we don't think about prevention in our culture very much. And we are sometimes a last resort for people when they can't, their other stuff hasn't been figured out. So yes, it very much is like, do it ahead of time, because what the points are doing, what we want to do is get your body to a place where it's like, oh wait, I know how to function properly. I know how to sleep. So yes, like if you know that like this is a calming point for you, do it even when you're not worked up to try to help yourself, you know, manage a little bit better when the stressful time comes. Yeah, that's a great question. All right. Headaches. This one I'm very familiar with. So in our house, we call it a hot sock. These are just some tips. In Chinese medicine, we think about heat way more than we think of ice because we want things to move. We think about pain in terms of it, that it's stagnation. And so it can be stagnation because there's too much, like too many people in a room and you can't move. It can stagnate things, or you can get stagnation because there's not enough of something. So if you have this running river and there's a drought, the water decreases and the river slows maybe to a standstill. So that's a time when we would have stagnation due to deficiency. The way we look at it is that stagnation causes pain. So we want to move it with heat other than constricting with ice. Now, all acupuncturists can't be right and PTs or doctors be wrong, you know, so like figure it out for your body. You might like ice when you have a headache, and that is totally fine. Heat is just my first suggestion to try. So we do a hot sock at our house. We fill like a long tube sock with either rice or grits, and we heat it in the microwave, and everybody just knows, you know, when somebody says, I have a very headachy family, I need a hot sock, somebody's got a headache. And so lay with it over the eyes. For those of you with muscle tension, hot sock around the neck, even when you don't have the neck pain yet. If you get it at the end of the day from working on your computer, go ahead first thing in the morning. Like, nobody's home with you. Never mind, everybody is home with you right now, but nobody is really watching you at work. So, you know, put your hot sock on. You can also do a pant leg if you want. Tiger Balm, and I've got some other things here that I can share with y'all later if you want, but Tiger Balm on the temples, be careful of your eyes, and the front of your head, forehead, and along really anything that hurts and has tension in it, get the Tiger Balm on. It has that like moving feeling to it. And you know, the basic stuff of making sure that you're eating and drinking enough and that you're taking breaks. I think a lot of times we actually don't eat as much as we should or as frequently. So keep that in mind. And again, not my scope of practice, but I really love magnesium for headaches. I prefer the liquid form because it absorbs better and won't mess up your digestion as easily as some other forms will. And your B vitamins and CoQ10 can be really helpful, but not my scope of practice, so I would do a little research on your own about that. I feel pretty safe about the magnesium. I would start slow, and I mean, you know, friend to friend. I would start slow and increase a little bit, but if it gets to the point where you're having diarrhea, back it off. Okay, so these are some of my favorite points. So we're gonna learn large intestine 4, kidney 1, and liver 3. So I'm just writing this note. I'm gonna go back to stop sharing. So LI4, or large intestine 4, you've probably seen quite often as the pain point or the headache point. So if you take your hand and you squeeze your thumb to your index finger and it makes a mound, the highest point on that is LI4. So you can squeeze it, you can manipulate it by, I mean, it's usually pretty achy on people. So this is a great point for inflammation and for headaches. This channel runs all the way up through to the face. And so headaches are, I love this point. It's a very moving point, and it's also good for boosting your immune system. So you can really work this one. Also, it's on the large intestine channel and it's really moving. So again, think constipation right here. I'm gonna move you guys down, for this is one of my favorite points because I have props, because it can be a little tricky to get to. So kidney 1 is the most grounding point on the body. So when we have headaches, we need to get out of our head, which is easier said than done. So a lot of times we need to do something physical. If we can't do something mental or emotional, we can't make the shift in our mind, then we need to make it physically to kind of remind our mind how to do what our body's doing. So the point is on the bottom of the foot. So if you were to crunch your foot together, now I realize not everybody is going to be able to get in this position, so that's why I have the props. But if you crunch your foot, the point is right here. It's like this top 1/3 of the foot. It makes a little divot, and you can kind of feel it. So again, you guys can, y'all can look these points up and see pictures, but kidney 1 is right here. So this is kind of tricky to get to and awkward and not really something you necessarily want to be doing when you have a headache. So if you have a partner or a kid around that can press it when you have a headache, that's awesome. But if not, we have balls. So this is one of my kid balls. One of my favorite things to do also for really hyper kids or kids that need some sort of stimulation during class, to roll their feet on balls is really nice. It gives them something to pay attention to, and it also grounds them to the earth. And so you can just put any sort of ball. I have a bouncy ball, moved the couch to find one of those. And just really rolling your whole foot out on any kind of ball is really helpful, but just resting it on that point. So you're resting it on that top 1/3. It's a great way to stimulate that point. So on the other side of that point is liver 3. So this is great when you have somebody who can help you to hold both. So if you take your index finger for liver 3, which is one of the main movers in the body, you put it in between the big toe and the second toe, and you move it back till you come to that junction where the bones are starting to come together. And right before you get there in the fleshy part, that's liver 3. So when you press on it, it can be a little bit tender. This point is known as like the anger point. So a lot of us, when we're stressed, we get really irritable. I have many ideas about that. But a lot of our emotion, if we're feeling sadness or anxious or grief or worry, it can sometimes present as anger. Yeah. So this is a great point for that. A lot of people physically can't reach that point, so you can get really creative with that, like get, a pen, get whatever, like something long, and be able to just stimulate this this liver 3 point. It's, I mean, not to give away too much about myself, but it's a good one for me. So I love that one. Any questions so far about headaches and the 3 points for the headaches? I did get a question about doing points at the same time. And yes, that's fine. You can totally do that. Also, I don't know when that was asked because I'm not great at multitasking. Okay, so move on. I mean, I don't want to jinx myself, but I'm pretty certain that the other PTA board members are really impressed that I'm actually, never mind, I'm not even going to say it because now I can't find the thing. There we go. Okay, so we had mentioned some sleep stuff. Like we all know deep breathing really works. So I'm not sure why none of us do it, but it does make a significant difference if you do follow Miss Sochek's instructions and actually stop and take some deep breaths. I see what Salem gets from her class, and it is excellent. And he will stop and take some deep breaths. It triggers, it takes away that flight or fight response and gets us much more grounded, because we can't be up here when we're breathing deeply. And again, it's also a nice thing to think about that kidney 1 point when we're breathing, and keeping our feet on the ground or either resting on those balls and taking time to breathe. So that's going to help your headaches. It's going to help your anxiety. Just taking it down and thinking about being connected to the earth. We're not taking enough breaks. The kids don't take enough breaks. We definitely don't take enough breaks. So try to incorporate that if you can. I put little Post-it notes up sometimes, like every time I open the refrigerator, it'll say like 2 deep breaths or do some neck circles, something along those lines, like little reminders that anytime I'm doing this mundane stuff, that I take into account that I need a little break to move my body in a different way or shift my thinking. We don't have enough fun. So if we can incorporate that, it can be fun to make a list of things that are fun with your family and see where it overlaps, because you may not even realize that you all like, one thing that you can end up doing together quite frequently if you have that knowledge. It's amazing. Sometimes we don't actually talk to the people that we're living with. So I would say try that. Always move your body. Everybody is going to have a different degree of this, what feels good, what doesn't. I'm talking, I don't mean like put on Lululemon and like, do a triathlon. I'm just saying, like, if you can move your spine and do some spinal flex to get the juices flowing and to get the lymph moving, do that. If you can do some arm circles, do that. If you can take a walk, great. If you can actually get your heart rate up, great. But movement is going to be key to all of this, to the anxiety, to the stress, to literally all of it. Move your body. We all know stick to a bedtime routine, easier said than done. And you can figure out what that is for you. I know a lot of people say, I'm sometimes the worst acupuncturist because I don't always give the best advice, but I know that if some people fall asleep really easily with the TV on and then they say, oh, it's bad, and they shame themselves for falling asleep with the TV on, but they fell asleep and slept, I don't know, doesn't sound that bad to me. So, try to test things out without judgment on yourself. Taking magnesium orally will help. It helps calm the nervous system. It's really good for the muscles. So it's also really good for if you get leg cramps or sometimes even the twitches, the muscle twitches, that can be a few different things, but the magnesium can help, and you can also get it in lotion form, which is excellent. And putting it on your feet and legs can be really helpful. I didn't write this in here, but also neck and shoulders. And bring out the hot sock again. Like, I like to go to bed with it sometimes on my stomach or sometimes on my forehead, and then sometimes on my feet to help like really bring the focus down. So for this, we are going to have some repeats, because that's the great thing about Chinese medicine, is that some of these points have multiple functions. And as we can see, like, all of our systems in our body are so connected. And so it makes sense that one point could have many different things that it does. So we are learning one new one. So you're going to see you have your kidney 1 here, which is the one on the foot, which is that grounding point. So again, we're thinking insomnia, headaches, migraines, anxiety, all these things that kind of keep us up in our head. We want to get back into our feet. Movement also helps with that. And then pericardium 6 is that one that we do for that anxious tummy. And again, for anything that's kind of coming up. So we want everything to go down. So heart 8, I will show you that one. This one's kind of fun and it's easy to get to. So the heart channel is going to run down the palm of the hand. And so if you make a loose fist, right where your pinky is, like with a loose fist, it's right here. So it's kind of like in between. It's almost where these 2 finger bones come together, and you can kind of dig in there. This one is just really good for, we call it calming the shin, but calming the mind, and helping us really relax. And it's also great for headaches, because again, there's so much happening in here. Yeah, so I really like that one. Sleep can be tricky, but it's not impossible. And if we're doing things to nourish ourselves during the day, it's like, when your kids were little, for those that have kids, and And my mom would always say, I would be worried that they were napping too long, which happened like maybe once or twice in both of their lives. So this is not common for me, but I would worry, oh, they're not going to go to sleep. And she said, you know, the more that they have better sleep during the day, the better they're going to be. They're going to sleep at night. And so it's like that prepping, that we know that we're going to have a hard time sleeping. So we're preventative here. We're prepping, and we're calming the shin. So we're almost there, guys.
I have a quick question about the magnesium lotion. If you have liquid magnesium that you're taking orally, can you just add some to your lotion, or is it a totally different thing?
We should try that.
Okay.
That has never occurred to me. So yeah, I don't know.
All right.
I might test that out tonight, actually. That could be
Love
fun.
it. Keep me posted.
Okay. I'll let you know how it goes. So the main takeaway that I want y'all to know is that like nothing's going to be perfect. And we might, you know, even when I was doing that Instagram post today and I thought, I don't feel like I'm handling my stress very well. I know that with the tools that I have, if I didn't use those like years ago, I would be in a way worse situation right now. And so it's not about being perfect. It's just about helping us be better in our own bodies and what our own health and what we have going on. And, you know, my favorite points, I can't stress kidney one enough. I love that one. And large intestine 4 is just such a great access for any tension, headaches. And I probably just love that because we're a headachy family. But, you know, pick your favorites and yeah, move your body, feed your body, love your body, and let it play and rest. I like want to really circle this play because we just don't do that. And I think it will make a significant difference. This is on my contact.
I know what that is.
What'd you say?
Not sure what that play is you talk about.
I know. So anything, I think anything that brings us joy. So it doesn't have to be like swinging on a swing, because like, I don't know about y'all, but that makes me nauseous now and feel very unsettled. So I don't like that. But it doesn't necessarily have to be like what we think of kid play. So getting creative with that, what that might look like. It might just look like hiking. It might look like watching a movie with your family in the middle of the day, like eating breakfast for dinner or something. You know, just we need to spice things up sometimes. So do y'all have any questions? There is a nice connection. Somebody has asked about headaches and stomach aches. So that quite often gets connected. So if we got really deep into the cycles of the way that the energy flows from channel to channel in the body, the wood channel, which is so all the organs have like a BFF. So it's like the liver and the gallbladder are BFF, and they're part of the wood element. And then the spleen and stomach are the earth element, and they're like buds. And so everybody has their little best friend, and it can go in this perfect circle, and then it can go in this controlling star. And so what happens sometimes is when we would say the wood energy, the liver energy gets stagnant, it overacts on the spleen and stomach, which can cause digestive distress. The liver being stagnant often is manifest in headaches, in red eyes, irritability, sometimes ringing in the ears, not always, that can be a kidney thing, but pain in the epigastric hypochondria it's the hypochondriac region. Doesn't mean you're a hypochondriac. And so when we have that kind of headache, sometimes that more of a frustrated headache, it's the liver, the wood element overacting on the earth. And so these are all words, and it can sound airy fairy, but it works. It's been around for a really long time. And sometimes it doesn't matter the words that we use, you know. Words matter, but you know what I'm saying? Like it doesn't, we could call it anything, but the function is the same. The intense headache is also affecting the digestion. I hope I answered that.
I have a question. Earlier on, you had mentioned something about probiotic spores. I'd never heard that before because I've been working on my gut health and I'm taking probiotics and prebiotics and different things like that. So I'm just curious what that is because I don't know what that is.
Okay, not my scope of practice, but my experience with probiotics is that you really do need to get the perfect, it's a lot more fine-tuned, I think, than we would like to believe because it makes it more difficult. But in order to match the bacteria that you need in your body and what you need to get rid of, the probiotics need to be pretty specific. And so they don't always work for everybody. So the probiotic spores, they're shelf stable because they're actually dormant until they get into the digestive tract. And they're supposed to, again, they're supposed to help build up the good bacteria to the degree that you don't need it anymore. So whereas I think a lot of probiotics are kind of a pretty regular thing that you have to keep taking, I will say just personal experience because, I mean, y'all know kids have perfect poops. Like they look different than ours. And I wanted that. Like I wanted what I was seeing. And so I also, again, don't tolerate common, normal things very much. So if I'm feeling a little discomfort in some area, I'm going to try to fix it before I live with it. So I started these probiotic spores and I took them for 30 days and I didn't tell a difference until about a month in. And then I was like, this is excellent. And so the people that I've tested this out on seem really happy with it. I heard a podcast about it. And again, the woman was trying to sell her product. So you have to be kind of wary about that. But she did have to know enough to make the product in the first place. So I didn't buy her product. I just went to Sprouts and tried some off the shelf. So I like them. But again, I don't think there's always a one size fits all for everybody's digestion.
Austin, since Michelle brought that up, I'm a big proponent of Eastern medicines. I lived in Hawaii for a long time, and my girlfriends in Hawaii used acupuncture for childbirth.
Yes.
So, and I've seen it. I used to see an acupuncturist weekly because I have shoulder injury, but the Chinese who I was friendly with in Hawaii talked about tea. We were talking about heat, how they prefer heat. And so when I was in Hawaii, I drank a tea that was done by a Chinese company called Meridian. And it's actually been remarketed. As you can see, it's probably reversed, but it's Nutra Slim Tea. And it really isn't. It's the same company, different name, because what's going to sell better, right? So the thing about it is that it doesn't taste great, Michelle, but if you drink a little bit of it, it does the job. And basically it cleans out your entire system. I drink a fourth a cup every night before I go to bed, every night. And, it's not, but I feel better. I don't usually use medications if I can stay away from it. And so world market, $2.99. Joke.
Thank you.
I've been using it now for, I think, 10 years in this box.
Wow.
So, but they do have a lot of Chinese teas, and that's what the Chinese probiotic is
Mhm.
for organic, relief.
Yeah. Thank you. I was going to ask if anyone else had any experience with this, or because it's a new avenue that I'm going down. I've been doing this for about maybe 30 days. Just for many reasons, like a lot of us, stressed, and I gained some weight, and just all that. And so I just was starting to look at my gut health, and I've been learning a lot. I've been doing a lot of investigation and learning on it. So when you said spores, I'm like, oh, what's that? So
And that comes in a lot of forms, like tea. This is spores. It's the same kind of plant life,
okay.
organic plant matter.
Has anyone done like apple cider vinegar or anything like that?
Robin Crouch every day.
Oh yeah, that's true. I was just curious. Okay.
I know apple cider vinegar is great for a lot of things.
Yeah.
I haven't used it in that way, but I don't know, people do swear by it. And we want to think about our gut health in terms of our immune system as well. So making sure our immune system is good by actually working with the gut. So, some of my teachers in school would say, if they're not eating, sleeping, and pooping, you can't fix it. So they have to be eating and sleeping and pooping in order to get to the neck pain, in order to get to, balancing their blood sugar or whatever it is. You gotta get those basic things. Yeah, so I'm just reading the chat. Yeah, so some people have seen a difference in the apple cider vinegar. It's not delicious, they say, but they feel better. So
Yeah, there's ways to kind of zhuzh it up a little bit too. Sometimes I use a tea with it, an herbal tea, and you can use stevia if you want to sweeten it up. You can make like this tonic, And
yeah.
so there are ways to kind of, I have done it, but I like what I'm using. I'm using some actual probiotics right now because I don't know. Apple cider vinegar it was like making my stomach a little upset. So
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So don't do it. That's another thing that we have to tell our culture, which like we don't get as Westerners. We have this no pain, no gain idea.
Austin.
Yeah. Don't do that.
Member of our PTA.
Somebody else.
The elementary PTA.
Who's Ebony Brimington?
It's Miss Ebony.
Oh,
Sorry.
I
Here in
know
Kent.
who Miss Butcher is.
I will definitely send a list of the points, and I think we're recording this so we can also, access it on we can maybe put it on YouTube, or I can at least send it to y'all if you want. But yeah, I'll send you a list of the points so that you all have them. And yeah, and you can ask me any questions anytime. I will say too, with the digestion, I hate taking food away from people, and I really hate to ever even utter this one, but sometimes looking at our dairy, that can be a problem. So I'm sorry, y'all. And sometimes for some people, gluten as well. And sometimes it's actually them together versus one or the other. But, there are many things to play with. And I would just say the most important part is to be gentle as you're trying these new things, and not focus on the things that you do to take care of yourself, and not beat yourself up about the things that you haven't done. So any more questions?
Thank you so much, Austin.
You're
Thank you
welcome.
so much. I learned a lot.
I'm so glad. This was fun. I was nervous, but this was fun.
And so what do you do? I know I'm sorry, I had a call I had to take, so I missed some of it. So what do you do? You actually you do acupuncture, you do, what is it that you can do? Let's say I wanted to maybe consult with you. What are some things that you could do if I wanted to take this further?
I will stick needles in you.
Uh-oh.
They're super thin, so they come in a guide tube like this. Some have little handles on them, and not all. But I mean, see how thin? They're like thinner than a cat whisker. And so the guide tube just helps us. So if I was doing LI4, I just, whoop,
Mm-hmm.
and then we can stimulate it a little bit, but then you get to relax and it doesn't hurt. You can ask Salem. He's 7 and loves it.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
I believe you. Just the idea of it, though, I'm like, oh, and I'm sure I'd come around. So would you consult? Obviously, you would consult with me and find out what our goals were and all that.
yes.
Okay.
So it is a pretty extensive intake. People are surprised at the level of detail that I want to know about their digestive tract and their GYN system. And, you know, everything that we've experienced plays a role in our body. So even things that you don't think are important, like maybe perhaps like your mother, the birth experience, you know, of you being born. What was that like? You know, these things are all, we hold it all in our bodies. Some of it we don't know, and some of it we'll never know, and some of it could be ancestral and passed down. But everything is important. So all the little details that people don't necessarily think are important are usually play a role. So there's a lot of talking, just to get a sense of who you are and what your patterns are. Yeah.
A quick question with that. Is it a day of consultation and you come back and schedule another appointment?
No, it's all in one. You know, some acupuncturists, let me not speak for everybody. Some do that. Some have a consultation and then a treatment. But I always treat on the same day because sometimes I actually get the paperwork beforehand.
Okay.
Also, what people write and what they say are different. So you still have to ask them a lot of questions, even if the paperwork is pretty thorough.
Thank you.
Yeah. And also, if you guys are interested in acupuncture, but not interested in seeing me because you don't want to tell me, the PTA person at your kid's school, about your poops, that's fine. I know a lot of people. Like that doesn't hurt my feelings at all. So don't hesitate to ask for a recommendation. That makes sense to me. So, you know, yeah, I'm use me as a resource.
As long as you're not like, well, how's your poop today?
No, I will be. Oh, not at school. Not at school. I won't ask at school. I will definitely ask in here, though.
I got you.
We can have hand signals, you know, you can just give us a signal passing us in the hallway.
I know. One of my teachers, he used to, I worked at St. Vincent's as an intern with the HIV patients. And he was this big, just beautiful. He was like Mr. Clean, this guy. And he would say, "Are your poops loose? Are they thin? Or are they bald?" And so we could do, although we don't want to do this, but you know, we'll do this. Yeah. But yeah, there are hand signals. So.
Or we could use code words.
We can.
I kind of like that better. I have, and actually the lady that's helped me with my probiotics, she asked me, the goal is to have soft serve poop.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, well, that's an interesting. Now I'm going to look at soft serve ice cream differently now, but yeah. But I get it.
Yeah, it's good. Also, I am glad you're working with somebody. So your probiotics could be more on point because you have guidance with that. So yeah, I don't want to overstep that person. It's usually when we're kind of going at it willy-nilly. So, all right. Well, y'all feel free to email me. Like, you know, everybody's so busy, and I appreciate everybody being here. This was really nice. We don't always have, you know, 2 handfuls of people.
Yeah.
Austin, can you show your contact info again, just in case?
Yeah, and I can say this now. Are y'all kind of surprised at how I'm doing with this screen sharing? Not bad, right?
Impressed.
I was gonna mention like a while back before you even said anything. Before you said like I was thinking, I was like, wow, look at her cruising through the zoo.
Oh my God, it's because the prep before our first PTA meeting, y'all were worried about me. I was a mess, but I had Salem help me. Baxter, we did a whole tutorial today, so I feel pretty good.
Good for him.
Oh my gosh.
Namaste, ladies. I'm going to sleep. I'll see you tomorrow.
Good night. Nice to see you.
Night. Nice to see you.